Why did an Aerodactyl get Excel Rock? That's kinda dumb. And now it's time to take a look at the new moves in Pokemon Sun and Moon and which Pokemon learn them, but this video is going to be focusing on the existing Pokemon that might be getting some kind of a buff with these new moves. Now we do look at a very interesting and almost unfortunate stat, that out of the 52 new moves, 32 of them are exclusive to the 7th generation, with most of those being exclusive to one Pokemon or one evolutionary line. So, Excel Rock, well, that's Lycanroc only. Anchor Shot, that's that Ghost Anchor, spooky looking Pokemon. But Aurora Veil is where we start getting to see some older Pokemon getting buffed, and that's actually kind of weird because it's a nice move, but there was like a severe lack of ice types being introduced in Pokemon Sun and Moon, and it is actually a TM. So we can see right here, Sandshrews Alolan form, therefore we have Sandslash Alolan form, we have Ninetales and Vulpix as well. All of them are going to be getting Aurora Veil as a part of TM 70. Now, just searching through this document, there's only 13 Pokemon that get it, which seems a little low for TM, so I'm just gonna like randomly click around. I'm not gonna list off all 13 Pokemon. That once like the TM data comes out, it'll be pretty easy to figure this one out, but with Glaceon, that's gonna be a Pokemon that gets it, and what other Pokemon? We have Frostlass, so a little bit of mix on this Aurora Veil, and that's pretty nice because it will be a buff to Hail teams, so the more Pokemon that get it, the better your setup will be, and I like it out on Frostlass because it's a fast Pokemon, so it might be able to get that outspeed, set up the Aurora Veil. Now you have 5 turns of protection. It can also have Snow Cloak, so Snow Cloak Aurora Veil comboing might be pretty well. At least Ice and Snow Warning and all that is kind of getting a buff, which is pretty cool. After that, the next new move that old Pokemon will get will be Brutal Swing, so let's go and check out how Brutal Swing works out. Interestingly enough, another TM. So actually, way too many Pokemon to mention get this. 136 Pokemon will be getting this through the TM. That's going to be some 7th generation Pokemon and a lot of the earlier Pokemon as well. And then we also get to look up Burn Up. Now, I did actually get something wrong when it came to Burn Up. That someone in my Twitter feed was like, yo, Charizard gets Burn Up, isn't that sick? But looking at it, we only have 2 evolutionary lines that get it. The Growlithe into Arcanine evolutionary line, and then, awesomely enough, we get Cyndaquil, Pilava, and Typhlosion with that Burn Up. So that's actually pretty cool that this evolutionary line is getting some love, and it has something very exclusive. Now, I feel Arcanine started getting a lot of momentum near mid to late 6th generation, that Snarl and Intimidate start getting pretty big. It's a bulky Pokemon that does a lot of offensive damage. It's actually a pretty nutty thing, so giving it Burn Up is kind of interesting. It's a special move, so I don't know how Arcanine is going to utilize that too much, but Typhlosion getting it also is kind of awkward because Typhlosion usually wants to Choice Scarf Eruption or something like that, and using the Burn Up, that kind of doesn't win out when you're Scarfing. So the only other option is to like Life Orb with a Timid nature, which means you Eruption, if you take a hit and survive, then you get to Burn Up because now you're doing almost full health Eruption damage, but since you took a lot of damage, you know, Burn Up is like your last best option. So I think it does make sense on the Typhlosion, and that's why I was like, oh, I thought more Pokemon got Burn Up, because that'd be pretty cool if it got like extreme crazy fire coverage, but I got that wrong in my moveset video, which is fairly unfortunate, but it is something that a few Pokemon will get. And when it comes to Brutal Swing, a lot of Pokemon are going to be getting this dark 60 base power that hits all adjacent Pokemon. I don't even know how, like, why? That doesn't even seem like that good of a move, that you're hitting your ally, and then both opponents only taking a 60 base power move instead. I guess for a dark physical, it works, but I'd rather just like single target a stab Sucker Punch or something like that. After that, we go into a whole slew of exclusive moves, you know, Clanging Scales, Core Enforcer, all of that is going to come out, but Fire Lash will be a move that is exclusive, but not in the 7th generation. For some reason, only Heatmore gets Fire Lash, and it does, like, that's it. It's the only one. I could click on this all day, but it will just be Heatmore. I don't know if Fire Lash is that broken of a move to save Heatmore, because there's a lot wrong with that Pokemon, but at least Fire Lash, it's an 80 fire physical move, so it hits pretty well, and it lowers the target's defense stat. So I guess in like some really off chances, you know, Heatmore, Fire Lash, well, they lose defense, Fire Lash again. Hey, you just KO'd something with Heatmore. Good job. That actually might be working on Scarf, you know. Now I don't have any of this ready. I was like, oh, what was I even looking at right here? Forgive me for not knowing Heatmore's stats off the top of my head, but yeah, I was hoping that it had a better speed. Like, does it have 75 speed, 80 speed? Because then you might be able to like Adamant Scarf it, but no, it looks like you still have to run the Jolly. 97 attack without any kind of boosting. I guess there's still hope that you could lash into a defense drop, into a KO or something like that, but then we're not super tanky. We'd have to hold on to that speed. I'm just trying to figure out like every way that the Heat More works. It wasn't a Pokemon that got a stat buff in these 7th generations, so no hope right there for it to get like a double buff and then actually become usable. I'm thinking like double battles, you hit, like you scarf, outspeed, hit an opponent, you get follow-up damage to KO, and then if you earthquake, you don't really get to do anything because it's going to KO your Heat More as well. Yeah, I can't really make anything of this, so let's go on to the next one. And again, just so many moves to skip over, like Floral Healing. You think Floral Healing, oh, which one of the many flower Pokemon out there is going to get it? Vileplume? Nah, Vileplume is like a vile smelling flower. Hey, now the name starts to make sense. But even then, like, we can look at some other Pokemon. Florges. Florges is like the flower healing, not grass, but does grass help things kind of Pokemon. It doesn't get flower healing. That is just going to be Comfey only. And then we have Gear Up. So, all right, where is Gear Up going to go? And can we, like, even count this? It's only Magearna, Magearna's form, and then Klinklang. So, Gear Up, I was hoping that maybe there'd be a reason for Gear Up to exist. That, okay, you give it to some kind of Pokemon, and now you can combo it with Magnetic Flux, but the only other Pokemon that gets it is Klinklang. So that means you have Magnetic Flux or Gear Up. It kind of boosts you, but why would you use Gear Up when you could use Shift Gear and get way more out of it, or something like that? So it's a move that an older Pokemon gets, but I don't think it really changes the game. Now, here's one that will surprise you. You see High Horsepower, and you're like, alright, that's going to be like the Mudsdale exclusive move, right? Well, if we go and type in high right here, we get to see that High Horsepower belongs to Golurk. And then if we go down, we get to see that it goes to Mudbray, Mudsdale, and then Snorlax? Okay, so I was like, what maybe Ponyta would get it or something like that. Rapidash, I don't see Blitzel having use for it, but it would just be something that kind of makes sense because those are more horse-like Pokemon, right? No, Snorlax gets it, and Golurk. So, Snorlax already gets Earthquake. I guess as a doubles option, you have that single target, does more damage. Like, that's the interesting thing about High Horsepower, that instead of splitting your damage on the Earthquake, you're going for that larger single target nuke. And on top of that, you know, High Horsepower seems to have a lot of potential right there on at least the Mudsdale. And if it gives Golurk something to do, good for Golurk. Good for him. But the Snorlax, like, completely threw me for a loop. We have Ice Hammer. You'd imagine that some, like, Pokemon get this, right? Nope. That's just going to be the Yeti Crab looking thing, Instruct, and then we go on to Laser Focus. So Laser Focus is a move that at least a few other Pokemon get. I'm still doubting Laser Focus's potential. I don't think these turn after setup moves like Mind Reader and stuff like that really work out. Even Focus Energy is kind of unless you do like a really crazy Baton Pass chain into it, or maybe you have like the right Pokemon doing the right setup, but it's not as good as you think it would be. Laser Focus is the same, so Mewtwo gets it. Mewtwo gets it, Mewtwo's other forms, so that's like Megas and stuff. Lucario, Mega Lucario, Kartana, and then, yeah, so there we go. We get an Ultra Beast and then Lucario and Mewtwo and stuff. So some Aura-ish Pokemon, some fighter Pokemon, but the only real usable Pokemon is going to be like Lucario that isn't in the 7th generation. And I think Lucario does just fine without Laser Focus. Leafage is going to be 7th generation only. Then we can look at Liquidation and Lunge. Now this actually is really interesting because on the Liquidation, chance to lower target's defense by 1, not bad, but Lunge will also lower the target's attack stat while dealing damage. This is actually some good potential moves right here. Corsola gets the Liquidation. Might add up if you're playing that long game, but then Tier 2 gets it. So that's actually a really solid one, because then Caracosta gets the Liquidation, and then now you have like some extra Snowball and a little extra behind that Shell Smash if you do need it. It's kind of like another option. Instead of Waterfall having that chance to flinch, throw down the Liquidation and you see what happens. And then we go into new Pokemon. So that was pretty quick right there. We have like the Dew Spider, so what, like the crazy spider, water spider thing, but that's for a different video. I'm gonna be covering these exclusives in another video right there. And then that's right, I was supposed to bring up Lunge to see what Lunge was capable of. We get to see that at least a couple of older Pokemon get the Lunge. Surskit into Masquerain. And then we also have the Mothim. Who remembers that Pokemon? Not a lot of people. And then we go back into Dewpider. So Dewpider actually getting quite a few of like these new moves, a little bit exclusive right there, and then some other bugs. So while Lunge is an absolutely broken sounding move. It doesn't seem like many Pokemon get it. I don't think that the Mothim or the Masquerain can carry it enough. And then, as you can see, we know that Moongeist Beam and all these kinds of things are going to be pretty exclusive. Pollen Puff, yo, what about Pollen Puff? Other Pokemon are going to get that, right? Nope, that is going to be an exclusive. But then we go into a reverse exclusive on the Power Trip. So we all know about Stored Power. Stored Power is pretty ridiculous in that if you gain like stats, you get to unleash a special attack. Well, we have a dark physical attack that works on the same stats as well. Mankey gets this one, and then a few other Pokemon as well. Also, let's do Power Trip just to make sure we get that in full. And then we can see that Mankey gets it, Sandile gets it. Interestingly enough, Krookodile gets it at level 0, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. That's an egg move on Sandile, but it's a level 0 on the Krookodile, so that means you kind of get to interbreed with it, which I guess kind of works out. Then after that, we are going to see that Pancham gets it, so no 7th generation Pokemon getting access to this move, but then Power Trip does work out. If I guess you can only Baton Pass, really. Krookodile, it wants to Moxie Sucker Punch, but I mean, by the time you get a Moxie boost, you still have less damage. By the time you get your second Moxie boost, you still have less damage. So you need 3 Moxie boosts before Power Trip does anything. So if you can Swords Dance, Baton Pass, some Speed Boost into one of these Pokemon, like, yo, you give Pangoro the Power Trip off of like something like that, that could work out pretty well. Same with the Mankey, I guess, actually, this is comboing with some of the Pokemon that have Anger Point. Anger Point Power Trip, I guess, is the combo that Game Freak is fishing for. Will it work is the question. On Krookodile, I say yeah. Like, you can Scarf, beat up, like, you can Scarf Krookodile. I think beat up Whimsicott still combos with that really well. And then you Power Trip into some insane damage. Moxie, you already have max attack, so maybe. And then the Primate might actually have some. So, seems like Game Freak is fishing for a weird combo with a weird kind of move right here that's Dark type. So, if it was fighting, that would make sense. But who knows? Psychic Fang is going to be a new move as well. So Psychic Fangs will be on a few Pokemon, leading off with Bruxish for the 7th generation, but we see that Carvana, which means Sharpedo, grabs it. And then, for some reason, Lillipup? So, Stoutland and Sharpedo and Bruxish. 3 of the most eclectic Pokemon that you could think of, almost, get access to the Psychic Fang. Alright. There we go. I would expect more Pokemon to get it, have it combo with something and give physical Psychic something to do, but only one Pokemon on that Bruxish actually getting stabbed from it, so that's kind of weird right there. And then we go into Psychic Terrain. Well, at least with Psychic Terrain, a few Pokemon, quite a few Pokemon get it. We have Musharna right here, we also have the Beheeyem, and then we go into the Oranguru, and then the last Pokemon is probably going to be like Tapu Lele or something like that. So, looks like the Tapu Pokemon, which one is this? That's going to be Tapu Koko. So they get their terrain move on top of their ability, which is kind of interesting right there, because they also have the telepathy ability. So, I guess it's just Musharna and Beheeyem, 5th generation. Psychic Terrain could work, it might be interesting, but I think it's going to be just better to bring the Tapu Lele, or even the Oranguru that you set up on that first turn, then you can start instructing later if you need to. You can get some weird stuff out of that, but I feel like with any terrain move that you need the Surge more than anything. That's why we didn't see a lot of Misty Terrain, Grassy Terrain, Electric Terrain in the 6th generation, is because it takes too much setup to really get going, so you need the Surge to get that going. We're almost done here though. We're getting kind of near the end, but there's still like a lot of crazy things, because then we go into Prismatic Laser, Purify, Revelation Dancer, we know that, Shadow Bone, Shell Trap, all of these are going to be exclusive moves until we get into the Smart Strike. Now, Smart Strike is interesting because that's another TM, so another new TM that a lot of people or a lot of Pokemon are going to get access to. And as we can see right here, Tapu Bulu gets it. So for a steel move that can't miss, we get a pretty interesting amount of coverage on it. 70 base power means it's usable compared to the other ones like Swift, Magical Leaf, Aerial Ace. Not a lot of people use this, but on the 70, it makes it a slightly more viable option. And it means like, all right, do I run the Iron Head on Excadrill, which is absolutely going to do tons of damage and have that chance to flinch, or do I run that Smart Strike, because it is the smart decision to try to take out the things that frustrate you. If you are frustrated by evasion, minimize, anything like that, you want the move that can't miss. And I think that might actually be like a little bit of a peg from Game Freak, you know. You could either complain about evasion and be a baby about it and create a whole community dedicated to hating evasion, or you could be smart. and run the move that stops it. I think that that's what Game Freak was going for, but I don't know because I'm not a developer and I'm just gonna stick with my logic right there. So, Speed Swap, anybody? Well, Ultra Beasts get it, so there's that, but then Raichu and Emolga will be the non-7th generation Pokemon that get access to the Speed Swap. I don't know if Raichu needs as much, but maybe Emolga could kind of be mean. It's like a tanky-ish Pokemon, it likes to screw around, and I guess the Speed Swap in doubles might open up some combos that you just kind of shift some things around. Maybe it could work on the Alolan Raichu. You get your like whatever it's called, the Surge Surfer going on. So you can still swap away speed and stay faster than the opponent in that electric terrain. Or you can just do whatever. Yeah, I feel like more of these moves need to go to more Pokemon. Like, there were so many different options. You could pick out one of these and be like, yeah, I know a Pokemon that could get access to that. I mean, Lunge, like Leavanny wants Lunge. Like, did I miss something? Why doesn't Leavanny have Lunge or anything like that? Or why doesn't that Pokemon get it? So I don't know. Some of these moves are stupid good. I like the Pokemon that get them. I like what they can do, but I feel like Game Freak didn't take a chance. I know they buffed and nerfed a lot of things this generation, but I feel like the new moves were a little too exclusive. And actually, this kind of goes back to, I don't remember when it was or where it was, but there was certainly an interview a ways ago with Masuda who said that instead of introducing new Pokemon and new mechanics and like all these crazy new things, they want to update the old and try to keep the new moves a little more limited in future generations. I can see that, but I would prefer the other way around of like, all right, you introduce a new move or you introduce a lot of them and then you use that to kind of fix up the older Pokemon and then make some cool things happen. Like, I wanted to see at least 10 Pokemon get some of these new moves instead of 1 or 2, or it being completely exclusive. And then like Psychic Fangs, come on, you could have found a couple of more Pokemon for that. I mean, Seviper, every strong jaw Pokemon instead of just the Mega Sharpedo potentially. I feel like that could have worked out pretty well. After that, we go into the Spotlight. So Spotlight, yeah, this is an interesting move. I want to see how Spotlight ends up playing out, but at least we get some other Pokemon. The Starmie getting Spotlight, kind of adding to that Clefable with the Spotlight. So you could either go for the Follow Me or you could go for the Spotlight, do some silly things like that. And we also have the Spinda right now. So Spinda gaining a little bit of interesting stuff for itself. And after that, we have the Stomping Tantrum. I feel like it's going to combo with potential Fissure and stuff, but that's really only going to be on the Marowak and a few other Pokemon. Let's see, we have Marowak right there, and what else gets the Stomping Tantrum? We have the Stuffle, so just Beware. Actually, does Beware end up with Fissure? That would actually be pretty sick, except I'm not seeing it. So yeah, Stomping Tantrum seems like a really cool move with a lot of potential right there. Stomping Tantrum, what it does is that power doubles if the previous move failed. So maybe there's going to be some other combos that we're not thinking about on this Pokemon or on this setup right there. And then Stomping Tantrum just will go to 150 base power, potentially have Stab on some Pokemon, and that seems pretty solid. After that, we have Tearful Look. Remember when Bonsai in the anime used the fake tears and stuff? Well, it also has Tearful Look. So, Sudowoodo, Bonsai getting access to that. But then after that, it's just going to be Wishy-Washy and its other form. So I like that. Wishy-Washy looks so sad, so it can even run the Tearful Look if it needs to. Throat Chop is weird because I saw Throat Chop, and I was super excited for Throat Chop. I'm like, yo, all the dark Pokemon that are going to be nasty little, mean, tricky little Pokemon and just go around chopping people in the throats. There's going to be a ton of dark Pokemon that get this move, right? No, we have Incineroar, so it's like a pseudo exclusive on the Incineroar, and then we have Sneasel. So at least Weavile gets it, which does make a lot of sense. That's a solid buff to Weavile after getting nerfed pretty hard in the 6th generation. Like, dark types just got super nerfed because of the introduction of fairies. So I feel like they almost all dark type. Like, Throat Chop should have been a TM given to a lot of dark type Pokemon. That way they had the option to at least shut down some of that Pixelate Hyper Voice and some of the other crazy sound moves that are going on and stuff. Even something like Noivern, you can use Throat Chop to kind of slow them down, which would be pretty nice to see. Toxic Thread, another interesting move. So Toxic Thread was like super busted, and I wanted to see what Pokemon could have actually gotten it. Just Spinarak and Ariados. Just Spinarak and Ariados, so they actually might get some, like, viability just off of how silly and stupid Toxic Thread is. But would I have liked to see some other Pokemon get it? Of course. And there we go. Trop Kick and Zing Zap are going to be exclusive moves. And I think that's it. Wow, this video went on way longer than I thought it was. And I hope this wasn't too boring of a video for you guys. Like, it's just a lot of really distracting stuff, and like I said, since a vast majority of the moves are already exclusive to begin with, it's kind of easy to just get lost and be like, which one was that again? And then, you know, if only one other Pokemon kind of gets it, it gets kind of boring. But there you go. You get to start thinking maybe a couple of Pokemon with some of those interesting new moves, kind of mixing it up. But for the most part, all these like crazy, ridiculous moves are going to be exclusive. That's going to be the next video. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. Oh yeah, why didn't Aerodactyl get Accel Rock? That's kind of dumb.